And you shall know that it is I Yahweh, who is bringing you out of this. I'm the one. So in your life, the same thing. He did all that he did for you so that you would know that he did it. But then do we act like we actually know that? Well, in the initial point we do. Oh, we're all excited when he delivers us out of stuff and intervenes and makes all these wonderful miracles happen in our life, and we're so excited about it. But then we forget so quickly. Any different than Israel coming out of Egypt? Nope. Oh, but we laugh and mock them like how dumb they were. I can't believe that they were out of Egypt 5 minutes and already they're whining about being hungry, or they're whining about being thirsty, or they're whining about this, or they're whining about that. Are you any different? After all the stuff he's done for you, you should be ashamed of yourself. Just like you think they should be ashamed of themselves. Oh, but it's so easy to do that. I'm guilty. All of us are guilty. But all of this he's saying I'm going to do so that you know who I am. And that you also know that what I promised to Abraham as part of a covenant, that I keep my promises and I keep my covenants. I said to him that I would take his descendants and bring them back to the land, and I will. Guess what? You know why we get to go back to the land? Because that's still part of the promise that has not yet truly been fulfilled. That is why we get to go back. That is why we get to have the kingdom that's coming, and we get to be a part of it, because he still promised Abraham's descendants and those that would be grafted in and consider themselves, we read those verses, right? If you are of Abraham's seed, you're part of the covenant, and those who are grafting in are to see themselves as Abraham's seed. If you follow Messiah, if you're covenanted to Yeshua and to Torah, etc. We read those verses last time. Then you should have confidence as being Abraham's seed. That means that the covenant is to bring you back to the land. By the way, that doesn't mean you have to get a plane ticket now to go fly to Israel. We're not talking about the land that the governments of this world established in 1948. We're talking about the Israel that Yahweh had established. And by the way, make no confusions or illusions. The land that you see today does not have the right parameters and the right boundaries to match up with what Yahweh said anyway. Okay? So don't think it actually matches this. Now, the piece that we have is part of that, but it was bigger, okay, than what we see today. And so we don't even have the right boundaries, okay? So let's keep that in mind as we go through this. Yahweh uses the covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to establish who he is, and he is also the one who lays the groundwork here for the covenant at Sinai. That's what you're seeing here in Exodus 6. He wants to make sure he's laying out, you're going to learn. You are going to learn. You know, parents say to a kid, you are going to learn. You're going to figure out who's really in charge here, you or me. You know, you get that rebellious, rambunctious kid who wants to bang heads with dad. And dad says, oh, we'll settle that. You're going to learn. He says, Yahweh's saying here, you're going to learn. You're going to learn who I am and what that means and how you should be very afraid, but in a right, reverent fear, like the fear of Yahweh teaching lays out. And you're going to have that awe and reverence that is appropriate for the creator of the universe, a being that could lay waste to the greatest city at that time in that area, okay, with the 10 plagues. I mean, just unbelievable things. Then the parting of the sea and all the other miracles, and the pillar of fire, pillar of cloud, like that's an everyday event anybody would see, you know. And so that relationship, he says, you're going to know. So let's remember that part of covenanting and part of going into covenant is that you're supposed to be going in. Now remember, we don't covenant until Sinai. In that experience leading up to Sinai, those people should have known who they were dealing with. Okay? So the same thing we talk about in a marriage. I see too many people going to get married because they got all excited and they're all hormonal and they're all goo-goo-eyed and everything else, but they have really no idea what they're doing, and they really don't even know the person they're marrying as well as they think they do, or as much as they really should. They don't. Because it's after you get married, you're like, oh. Because every married couple, at some point I hear this, well, if I'd have known. Well, why didn't you know? Because we don't go through that process right. See, Yahweh the Israelites could never say to Yahweh, if I'd have known. You can't even do it. It's all written out for you. You can't say, well, I wasn't there or not. Well, just read about it. It's all there. You can't say you didn't know who you're dealing with. But you act like it, though, when your boss says, I need you to work Saturday, you act like you don't know who you're dealing with. Because not only are you not afraid of the consequences of breaking the commandments, you're not trusting that he can provide you with something better. Because part of the covenant was that he would provide. And so are we really showing we know who we're dealing with when we act that way? And it always makes me laugh because so many of you are whining all the time how much you hate your job anyway. Until you're about to lose it. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I love my job. No, you don't. And couldn't he give you a better one? Ask around. I bet you there's a whole bunch of people even in this room that had that situation and Yahweh gave them a better one. Okay? Now, you maybe didn't get it right away. Maybe you had to suffer for a small period of time waiting to get it. But you still were able to put bread on the table and have shelter and clothing on your back. I haven't heard anybody yet that suffered through all of that that ended up with literally not able to eat or sleep or be covered or anything. Oh yes, you got into some debt and you struggled. Yahweh was just trying to see how committed you are. If he did it for you instantaneously, you'd never learn to really trust him. So praise Yah, he doesn't give you everything you need immediately. I know that's not fun to hear, but you should appreciate that though. Part of him testing you to see how serious are you. More to the point, how covenanted are you? How much do you actually trust fully that if you do your part, he'll do his?